signs of foul play.
They noticed that there has been some type of violent struggle here.
As the investigation unfolds, secrets are exposed.
He had questions about his sexuality.
And a monster is revealed.
Quit playing with me!
He was very controlling. He had a history of abuse.
I felt that he had like an evil spirit.
But justice doesn't come easy.
He manages to make bond and is released from jail.
He had a new girlfriend and allegedly assaulted her.
You are a demon, you're evil, you're possessed.
September 20th, 2016. It's Tuesday afternoon in the Houston, Texas suburb of Cypress, an affluent community on the northwest side of town.
Cypress is such a suburban, quiet area. The crime is not that high out there. Cypress is known to be a family-friendly environment where people can come and feel safe.
But today, the family of 32-year-old nursing aide Amalia Alexander is starting to worry.
Amalia was supposed to pick up her nephews from school that afternoon, but she never showed up.
She was supposed to get Laura boys, but when she didn't come, Laura got worried.
So I started calling. I'm like, okay, well, let's just see where she at. Phone. I got nervous. I felt like, you know, something was off.
Hey, sis, give me a call.
It was unlike her to be gone and not show up without, you know, at least letting Laura know.
When Laura calls Amalia's workplace, there's even more cause for alarm.
My sister didn't show up for work.
Wait. She didn't call in?
She didn't call in, like no call, no show.
At first, we tried not to panic, but the more hours and minutes went by, the more worried we got.
And once Amalia has been MIA for a full 24 hours, her loved ones decide it's time to take action.
We were really worried, and Laura made a police report. I was there, but I just kind of played the background a little bit to be more support for Laura during that time.
We haven't heard from her in over 24 hours. She always has her phone on her. It's completely out of character for her to disappear this way.
They made an official missing persons report with the Harris County Sheriff's Office.
Where is she? What's wrong?
A kind and caring person to her core, Amalia Alexander, or Maya to her friends and family, had a bubbly personality and an infectious laugh.
Everybody loved Maya. She is so funny. And I smile when I even say her name because she makes everybody happy. She had this laugh. It's hilarious. You'll laugh with her laugh.
She was a nurse's aide, and she was pursuing her degree at Houston Community College to become a nurse.
She was so caring. She loved to bring everybody together. She was just a really sweetheart, an angel on this earth, no matter what. Like, she was a blessing.
She's really outgoing, adventurous, beautiful. She was the life of the party, so she liked to have fun. But she wasn't really dating too much. She was focused on school and work.
Less than a year earlier, Amalia had gotten out of a tumultuous 7-year relationship.
When they broke up, I convinced her to move closer to me. She found an apartment right down the street, and it was pretty cool.
And although Amalia wasn't necessarily looking for love, a chance encounter in April 2016 made her think she might like to try again.
Hey, how's the day going?
Good.
She locked eyes with this handsome guy. They ended up chatting and exchanging numbers.
The handsome guy was 32-year-old Jarvis Hickerson, And right away, he struck Amalia as a mature, ambitious person.
He was a landscape.
I'd love to take you out this weekend if you're free.
I'd like that.
Before long, Amalia found herself in love again.
They were spending a lot of time together, and it started getting pretty serious after just a few months of dating.
He was buying her stuff and getting her rings and clothes, taking her to the mall, taking her out to eat.
But now Amalia has gone missing, and her loved ones are fearing the worst.
Once 24 hours had passed without any sign of Amalia, her family decided to file a missing persons report.
It's completely out of character for her to disappear this way.
She's not returning or answering any phone calls, and she didn't go to work. Something is going on.
It was not like Amalia to not show up for work and to bail on Laura, you know, with the kids and plans with the family and stuff like that.
When's the last time you saw her?
The evening of the 19th.
Her nephews.
They're in bed.
Oh, thank you, sis. You're a godsend.
Laura had a really long day at work and was exhausted.
I was in the bed and I was half asleep.
Jarvis is here, so I'm about to head out.
I guess he was outside and she was like, I'm about to go to my apartment for a minute.
And I'll get the boys from school tomorrow, okay? Just get some rest.
That's the last thing. She stood at my door with that little black and white dress on, and she left.
That's the last time Laura ever saw her sister.
Social Security started with a promise. You work hard, you pay in, so Social Security will be there for you. AARP has worked with our nation's leaders for more than 65 years to make sure America keeps that promise. And that to protect and strengthen Social Security for you, your
32-year-old Amalia Alexander was equal parts beauty and brains.
She was an ambitious young lady. She had a lot going for her. She was in the medical field and going to school and just had a bright future ahead of her.
After getting out of a tense 7-year relationship, Amalia was seeing someone new.
A 32-year-old business owner named Jarvis Hickerson.
Jarvis owned a landscaping business and gave Amalia a sense of security she didn't have in her previous relationship.
But now Amalia's family is reporting her missing after a stressful 24 hours without any sign of her.
They had indicated.
Amalia's sister Laura says the last time she saw Amalia was on the evening of the 19th.
Laura believes Amalia left with Jarvis that night, which means Jarvis might be the last person to see Amalia before she disappeared.
She's concerned that he could have something to do with her sister's disappearance.
After taking down the information from Laura, deputies passed the case over to the Missing Persons Unit.
The first thing investigators want to do is speak with Jarvis Hickerson.
Hello, is this Mr. Hickerson?
Yes. Jarvis is very amenable to the phone call and is providing information.
He confirms that he picked Amalia up from her sister's house on the evening of the night. Up from her sister's house on the evening of the 19th.
I mean, she's been having car trouble lately, so I gave her a ride back to her apartment.
Jarvis mentions to detectives that he dropped Amalia off at her apartment around 1 a.m. and went immediately home after.
He also admits that their relationship has been rocky lately.
Unfortunately, you know, we've been reevaluating our relationship, you know, we've been seeing other people.
In fact, Jarvis says he isn't the only man Amalia has been seeing.
He thought Amalia had went to Florida and was staying with the guy.
He said, you know, I haven't seen her, I've never heard from her.
Do you know this guy's name?
Unfortunately, no. I think he's someone she used to date before me.
Jarvis says he's been really concerned for Amalia's safety ever since he heard she hasn't been in contact with her family.
He's tried calling, he's tried texting. He even became so worried he called her job, but there was no response.
After getting off the phone with Jarvis, detectives ramp up their investigation.
They register Amalia in the National Database for Missing Persons. They also issue a BOLO, which allows law enforcement in the Houston area to keep a lookout for her.
Next, investigators head over to the apartment complex where Amalia has been living.
We didn't locate her car at the apartment complex.
At this point in time, they don't know if it's a homicide or not. They just know that there's a person missing and they're there just to perform a welfare check at the apartment unit.
Once inside, detectives quickly determine that neither Amalia nor anyone else is in the apartment. But that doesn't mean their search is fruitless.
Amalia was described to be a clean person, but inside of her apartment, it was very disheveled.
They noticed that there has been some type of violent struggle here.
It was trashed, just all across. You know, it's not how Amalia lived. It was a pretty bad amount of damage in there.
Both the bathroom mirror and the living room TV have been broken.
It was torn up. I mean, big screen TV was completely shattered. The mirror in the bathroom was shattered. There was glass all over the floor.
It's time. Did he name his killer?
With more than 2,500 active cases, Texas trails only California in having the most open missing persons investigations in the country. In March 2021, the Texas Attorney General's office established the Cold Case and Missing Persons Unit. This unit aims to provide local law enforcement agencies across Texas with the necessary resources to investigate unsolved homicides, missing persons cases, and more.
The Cheez-It craves can happen anywhere. So eat Cheez-It, any way you can.
Houston detectives have just found evidence of a violent struggle inside the home of missing 32-year-old nursing aide, Amalia Alexander.
They do see evidence of some type of physical altercation.
The apartment is in disarray, and it looks like there had possibly been a fight in there or a struggle.
Was Amalia attacked inside her own apartment?
Detectives want to see if there's any signs of a break-in. Perhaps Amalia confronted an intruder and it went badly for her.
But there's no indication that someone broke in.
To one conclusion.
It's clear that this is an inside job. Someone that Amalia knew.
Detectives head to the complex's main office to inquire about surveillance footage.
Surveillance footage would be pivotal in this case if police could see who entered and exited that apartment.
Unfortunately, the complex's only security cameras are located at the front gate.
Management tells them we have to get with the company that controls that and we'll get that to you.
In the meantime, apartment management has some other important information to share with detectives.
Amalia had been in contact with management asking to move to another unit because she felt like she was being stalked, harassed.
Amalia didn't give any names, but she did say that she was being harassed by an ex-partner.
Detectives start reaching out to Amalia's family and friends, trying to identify the mysterious ex-boyfriend.
Upon their investigation, they come across a name: Desmond Price.
And what detectives learn about Desmond sets off some alarm bells.
Desmond has had a history of violence against Amalia. Sometime in 2010, Amalia had to file a police report for Desmond cutting her with a knife. There was another report filed in May of 2013 where Desmond again assaulted her and accused her of cheating, leaving her with a bloody nose and a black eye.
She really had a rocky relationship with Desmond. They eventually broke up.
Detectives' attempts to reach Desmond are unsuccessful.
This certainly seems suspicious.
But when they sit down with Amalia's sister Laura, she tells them they're investigating the wrong man.
We're both young. You know, he wasn't perfect, but he's not he's not a bad person. They just had stuff going on.
Laura is insistent that there is only one person who could possibly be responsible for Amalia's disappearance.
Look, I'm telling you, Jarvis has something to do with this.
Laura says you all need to circle back and look at Jarvis Hickerson.
I knew he did something to my sister.
Laura says Amalia and Jarvis began dating 6 months ago.
In the beginning stages, Amalia was happy. Everything seemed to be going really well.
But eventually, his true color started to show.
He was very controlling.
He was described as very possessive over her, and there were some concerns there.
He seemed to...
over her, and there were some concerns there.
He seemed to be really clingy. He didn't want to leave her side. He didn't want her going anywhere without him. We just couldn't understand it. I felt that he had an evil spirit.
It seemed as if he was trying to isolate her from her family and friends, you know?
He tried to keep her away from me and my children. She started to not come around so much, and we lived so close. And that's why I knew something was off about this dude. He knew I didn't like him, and we didn't get along at all.
Laura says Jarvis's controlling behavior towards Amalia eventually turned physical.
They had a history of abuse.
And I'm like, this person right here, honey, you are a demon, you're evil, you're possessed.
Appearance. Houston detectives thought an old flame named Desmond Price could be responsible. But Amalia's sister Laura is convinced there's only one man who could be involved. Amalia's most recent boyfriend, Jarvis Hickerson.
Laura tells detectives that Jarvis has been physically and verbally abusive. His main goal was to isolate and control Amalia.
It's none of your business.
Amalia would get a cell phone, and he would break the cell phone because he was very jealous and didn't want her communicating with other guys and things like that.
I'm like, you are a demon, you're evil, you're possessed.
1 week before Amalia went missing, he made a big scene in public.
They were at an IHOP, and there was an incident there where Jarvis saw
And everyone kicking her, cursing at her, and everything.
But Laura says the violence didn't stop there.
He left her there, went back and trashed her apartment.
He took her keys to her car and actually went to her apartment and damaged her apartment.
He totally destroyed the apartment. It was just a mess. It looked scary going inside, just from him just tearing it up.
And I'm like, oh no, he needs to be stopped.
That was enough for her to stand her ground and leave him and file the charges that needed to be filed to stop him.
The police ended up arresting Jarvis and charging him with family assault and some criminal mischief. They filed what they call a MOAP, a Motion of Emergency Protective Order. They filed what they call a MOAP, a Motion of Emergency Protective Order. And Jarvis was not supposed to have any kind of, communication with her.
But the next day, it was clear Jarvis wasn't taking no for an answer.
He was arrested that night on the 12th, and apparently on the 13th, he posted bond and he was out of jail on the 13th.
After he got out of jail, Jarvis showed up to Amalia's door holding a bouquet of roses and an engagement ring.
Hey, baby. Can you please forgive me?
He bought her some flowers. It was wild. It's like a movie. She's like, oh my God, he's trying to propose to me.
He was trying to do everything he could to get her to drop this pending charge.
Will you marry me?
However, Amalia was having none of it.
Amalia slams the door in his face and says, leave.
Hell no. That's what
In the meantime, Amalia reaches out to the apartment complex to request a change of apartment.
So, do you think that he held a vendetta against her because she rejected him?
Well, that's not the only reason.
Laura says Jarvis had some secrets he didn't want to get out.
Jarvis had questions about his sexuality and was upset that Amalia knew.
She said that he messed with dudes.
He was afraid that she would tell people.
But in the days leading up to Amalia's disappearance, Laura says Jarvis figured out a way to weasel himself back into her sister's life.
My sister thought she can help him. She was so sweet. And I'm like, you would never be able to help a demon. I seen through him.
To Laura's dismay, Amalia left with
head out.
That's the last time Laura ever saw her, was when Amalia said, I'm leaving with Jarvis.
If you've never been in that position, it's hard to figure out why the victim, why is it so hard for them to get out of it? I think a lot of us, you know, that haven't been in her shoes would be like, oh man, she just should leave him. She should just get away from him. But in their mind, they're like, no, I gotta stay in this because of whatever, financial reasons, support reasons. They may be afraid to leave him.
When Amalia left with Jarvis that night, Laura was half asleep and so exhausted, the danger didn't really register.
But now she's convinced he's done something terrible to her sister.
I'm telling you, he knows where she is.
Maybe she was like, well, maybe I'll get him out of here and he'll just do something to me and not kill my sister and her kids.
After speaking with Laura, detectives are inclined to agree. Jarvis Hickerson is the key to finding Amalia.
Throughout this investigation, we could never get past him. There was a lot of things that just kind of led us to believe that this is our guy and this is who we need to be focused on.
When detectives dig more into Jarvis's past, what they find gives them even more cause for alarm.
He is a criminal. He served 2 years in jail before, and he has 7 felonies.
Jarvis's rap sheet stretches back more than a decade and includes not only theft and assault, but also convictions for cocaine and illegal firearms possession.
To investigators, it seems Jarvis's landscaping business may just be a front for illegal activity.
As a means of making money, he would go out and sell stolen property.
A lengthy rap sheet isn't enough to make an arrest. But when the surveillance footage from Amalia's apartment complex finally comes in, investigators are hoping for a slam dunk.
In the footage, detectives can see Jarvis's pickup truck pull into Amalia's apartment complex just around 12:40 a.m., just as he claimed.
Jarvis indeed did drop Amalia off at 1, but he didn't leave like he told them initially.
The truck goes into the apartment and you don't see it leave until sometime around 3 a.m. or so.
What was he doing at her apartment for 2 hours?
And after Jarvis leaves the apartment complex, He shows back up an hour. He shows back up an hour and a half later.
He leaves at 3:04. He comes back at 4:23.
Jarvis had told people that he had dropped her off. He never mentioned coming back to her apartment at all.
But when he came back, there was nothing in the bed of the truck.
So it comes back and it's there for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes, maybe a little bit more. And then this time when the truck leaves, you can clearly see a large object in the back of the bed that was not there when the truck entered.
It looks like it might have been covered up with some type of tarp.
To detectives, this object looks like it could be a human body.
We suspect that may have likely been Amalia.
We're reviewing surveillance footage of 32-year-old Jarvis Hickerson driving in and out of Amalia Alexander's apartment complex on the night she went missing. Houston police are more convinced than ever that he's involved in her disappearance.
There's what appears to be a large object in the back of the truck. It looks like it might have been covered up with some type of tarp. We suspect that may have likely been Amalia.
November 23rd, they head to Jarvis' house with the warrant in hand with the intention of arresting him.
He was actually staying at a family member's place at the time.
As police are monitoring the house, they see Jarvis pull up in that same truck from the surveillance footage.
Go, 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 go.
Stay right there. Jarvis Hickerson? Yeah. You're under arrest.
Fortunately, police are able to take Jarvis into custody without incident.
While deputies transport Jarvis to jail, detectives search the truck and find something that makes them confident they're on the right track.
They found a bone in the truck bed, which was a huge discovery.
The bone fragment prompts detectives to search the rest of the home. And it doesn't take long to find more unsettling evidence.
While we were there, we actually came across Amalia's car covered with a tarp. And some other tools, lawn tools there. The trailer had been reported stolen.
Inside of that trailer, they discover shears, they discover a shovel and a saw, which they believe to have blood on it.
They took DNA, swabs of everything.
After completing the search, detectives head back to the station to interview Jarvis.
I knew from that point when I started talking to him that it was going to be one of those cases where he's probably not going to admit to it, but let me just do what I do to see if he would finally come around.
Jarvis refuses to give any sort of statement.
Jarvis asserts his Fifth Amendment right and remains silent.
But even though investigators are confident that Jarvis is responsible for Amalia's disappearance, they're still no closer to pinpointing her whereabouts.
And with Jarvis continuing to remain tight-lipped, they don't expect much help from him.
However, records from Amalia and Jarvis's cell phones, they finally get a solid lead.
Amalia's phone was last seen pinging in an empty field in Conroe, Texas.
Jarvis's phone and Amalia's phone went from her apartment to the Conroe area in the woods, probably about 25 or 30 miles away. And so their phones were pinging at the same time in the same location.
Once we kind of got a general location of the phone areas, we were looking and searching.
Houston investigators enlist the assistance of statewide search and rescue organization, TXR.
They are comprised of a group of volunteers that go out looking for missing people when they believe missing people are deceased, to help the families get closure to find the bodies.
We basically knew that the lady had been murdered. They had a suspect. They had an area where a cell phone ping was made, and they gave us that area to search.
There was some ponds and things like that up there that we searched.
We had got there about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. We stayed until dark, and we rotated people in and out. But we didn't solve the case. We didn't find the body.
Investigators hit a dead end with it.
Over the following days and weeks, tips continue to trickle in, but they all lead to more dead ends. For Amalia's family, the thought of never knowing what happened to her is devastating.
I felt distraught because although she was missing for a while, we still had hope that maybe she was out there somewhere alive. We just couldn't wrap our heads around it. It broke everybody's heart.
Everybody that knew her took a part in trying to look, and it was just so stressful.
But on November 30th, more than 2 months after Amalia's disappearance, investigators get a call from police in Conroe.
Finally.
Years. You know, my sister be in my dreams a lot. When she was missing, I feel like she was trying to show me she was there, but I didn't know where to look. I want the world to know she was here. I want them to know her story, and I don't care if it's hard for me, you know, to get through it. I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to make sure that she lives forever. Her name will live longer than I will. I'm even trying to write a book about her story. Whatever I gotta do, I'm gonna do it while I...
Detective Miller.
Houston detectives have just received word that human remains have been located near where searches for missing 32-year-old Amalia Alexander took place 2 months earlier.
When I got that call, I'm thinking they may have found her finally. And as morbid as it may sound, I was hoping it was her because I wanted to give the family some closure. I didn't want them to have to go wondering where her body was.
Harris County investigators immediately head to the scene.
It was some woods near a church. We were able to determine that those skeletal remains consisted of a skull with some teeth, a rib, leg bone. There was also some pink nails that we found. Her sister talked about she used pink nail polish, you know, to paint her nails.
She was polishing her nails pink before her disappearance.
After the remains are sent to the crime lab, the tragic reality is confirmed.
Unfortunately, it was Amalia.
They was able to identify her because of my DNA. When I went to do the DNA, the lights was flickering, and I'm like, her spirit is with us. I'm a firm believer of all that. I was angry for a really long time. Like, why, my sister? Why this way?
Yeah, rough day. We figured that might be the end result. We just couldn't believe that that could happen to her.
However, the level of determine.
The medical examiner, they ruled it a homicide, but could not determine the cause of death.
Based on the body being exposed to the environment, to the wildlife for weeks, an autopsy could not be performed by the ME.
Even without an official cause of death, detectives are ready to confront Jarvis Hickerson, hoping this time he will confess.
I tried to talk to him a second time. I confronted him with the information we had regarding the phone records, the surveillance video, and him giving this story as to his whereabouts and what was going on.
Look, Jarvis, we found her. And you're on the surveillance as the last person seen with her.
Despite all the evidence police have collected, Jarvis refuses to admit any involvement in the homicide.
I ain't do it.
And then he starts making some really odd comments.
He said he didn't really love Amalia and was actually a bisexual man after he dropped her off at home on the 19th.
Man, I ain't kill her. I've been over her.
He denied any involvement in her disappearance, and then he stopped talking.
Man, I'm done.
Even without a confession, the investigators have all they need to bring charges against Jarvis for Amalia's murder.
It was clear at that point that they had probable cause to file charges for capital murder against him.
However, as relieved as Amalia's loved ones are to finally see Jarvis behind bars, it's not long before he's back on the streets.
Jarvis manages to make bond, and he's released from jail. He's required to wear an ankle monitor.
At this time, the judge felt like bond was appropriate because despite the evidence being overwhelming, it is circumstantial evidence. He's still a presumed innocent person unless proven guilty.
He's taken back into custody after police discover he's been tampering with his ankle monitor.
He cut it off. If you think about it, if you're facing life, capital murder, once you cut it off, what you have to lose? He shouldn't even been out.
And tampering with his ankle monitor wasn't Jarvis's only offense while he was out on bond.
He had a new girlfriend and allegedly assaulted her.
Again, same pattern. He was violent, he was abusive, and he tried to choke her. She called the police, and he actually got charged with that.
Following his rearrest, the judge revokes Jarvis's bond and sends him back to jail to await trial.
In September of 2024, Jarvis finally...
We argue that essentially he killed her because she had called the police on him for the assault that had happened on the 12th.
He had such a long, lengthy criminal history that he felt if she pursued the charges that he would go to prison for a very long time. So that was his biggest concern.
The details of the murder itself remain murky, but prosecutors believe that when Jarvis dropped Amalia off at her home on the night of September 20th, they got into a heated argument.
She already had some damage to her apartment from when he trashed it on September 12th. But even more damage was done on this night.
In his rage, he attacked her, causing her to sustain injuries.
And this time, he didn't stop there.
I suspect he probably strangled Amalia, choked her, and killed her that way.
As Jarvis tried to clean up the scene, he panicked and stopped midway, opting to move Amalia's body to another location.
Investigators believe Jarvis disposed of Amalia's body in Conroe and then went about his life.
There is a boatload of circumstantial evidence that ties him to the crime.
However, some of the forensic evidence threatens to throw a wrench in the prosecution's case.
Shockingly, when the bone fragment found in Jarvis's truck was sent in for testing, they determined that it didn't belong to Amalia.
It turned out to be non-human, so some sort of animal bone.
It also turned out that all the items from Jarvis's trailer tested negative for blood and negative for Amalia's DNA.
They really didn't find anything that they could tie to Amalia or this case back there. It was all landscaping equipment.
But despite the lack of direct evidence, the prosecution's case is enough to convince the jury.
Jarvis is convicted of capital murder, which comes with an automatic sentence of life in prison without parole.
That was the best news, that the jury heard us. They had sympathy for what Maya went through.
However, for Amalia's sister Laura, It's still not enough.
What's the point of being Texas if you can't get the death penalty? That's what I wanted, and I don't understand why they didn't throw that in there. I'm not satisfied at all, but that's fine.
When I gave my victim impactment statement, I said everything I wanted to say, especially calling him a monster. We got our vengeance.
I just wanted to smile in his face and look him in his eyes, and that's what pushed his buttons to let him know that you thought you got away, didn't you? He got so mad and stood up looking crazy.
I think he said this is bullshit. He kept saying he doesn't want to hear it.
His voice was so deep, it was like demonic. It was kind of scary.
When Amalia Alexander met Jarvis Hickerson, she never could have expected what was to come.
She had so much ahead of her and opportunities ahead of her, and unfortunately she ran across a man that would end that laughter and light.
I miss her. I just wish she was here.
My sister didn't die for nothing. Her story may help other people, you know, and that's why I go speak, because she lived through me, and I'm going to help other people. They need to know what's the signs. Your intuition is a sign.
Abuse is never okay. If you or someone you love is in an abusive relationship, there is help available. Call the Domestic Violence 799-SAFE.
Anthony was a great person, man. Kind-hearted, loved his kids, and he'll give you the shirt off his back. When we got the news, I got to like a corner, and I just balled up, man. I was just crying because I couldn't believe it.
He spotted someone sort of pop out from behind the house wearing all black.
Multiple gunshots ring out, followed by the sound of screeching tires.
He felt very disrespected, and so he wanted revenge.
He's been humiliated. You've got to retaliate.
He was so angry, so bent on getting one guy that he didn't care who else had to get hurt.
I found it pretty chilling. He showed absolutely no remorse.
The city of Rock Hill, South Carolina, sits just 20 miles south of Charlotte.
The Rock Hill community is grown up around the downtown area, and then, of course, neighborhoods keep building out of that. And so the neighborhoods closest to downtown are the oldest ones, and then things that begin to push out towards York and Charlotte and Fort Mill, some of the newer, more modern type neighborhoods. But overall, the whole community is very focused on sports, athletics, great school system, lots of parks and playgrounds, and generally a really great place to raise a family.
On August 9th, 2015, it's around 11 p.m. when multiple calls come into the Rock Hill Police Department's 911 dispatch center.
At this time, the neighbors heard 8 to 9 gunshots ringing out. No one knows what's going on. There's chaos on the scene.
Noise complaints are extremely frequent, especially in the Frank Street area. Hearing gunshots also is not infrequent, even if it's just something innocent like someone shooting in their backyard for fun. But in this case, the noise complaint coincided with gunshots. There happened to be other officers nearby who heard those as well.
And they heard multiple gunshots ring out, followed by the sound of screeching tires.
The officers who are already close by are able to get over to Frank Street pretty quickly.
There were quite a number of people around the victim who was in the front yard.
They find a man laying in the grass, face first, bleeding from his head with an apparent gunshot wound.
He was shot twice, once in his arm and once in the head.
It appeared he saw the shooter and threw up his arms to block the shot, but when he was shot in the head, he immediately went down.
They located a faint pulse on him. He was still alive at the scene at the time.
They roll him over to administer first aid, and they find the gun underneath him.
The gun was just lying between him and the ground. It's a handgun. So it was pretty clear that he had either been holding it or it had fallen out of his waistband where he fell. But they did just treat him right there until the medics arrived.
Since the .380 caliber gun was found underneath Anthony, police think that he was carrying it.
They didn't know exactly what had happened, but one, it's not unusual for people in that neighborhood to carry weapons for protection, and two, it could have easily been assumed that he and another person were possibly shooting at each other. They wouldn't have known that until they got the area cleared and were able to begin searching for spent shell casings. He also had his South Carolina identification in his pocket.
The man is identified as 30-year-old Anthony DeMond Hart.
The victim's still alive. They're trying to work him, trying to save him. He is transported to a hospital in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Many of the people who are out in the street know Anthony, and so word gets around pretty quickly.
They called me and it was like, man, Anthony just got shot. I was like, what? So, like I said, I got the keys, took off to the hospital. His friends was there and family was there. It was kind of a couple laughs at first, just joking about things in the past, but because we didn't know the severity of it.
Anthony Hart was born on August 12, 1984.
Anthony was born and raised in Rock Hill. He lived there his whole life.
He got a little brother. He kind of took him under his wing. You know how it is growing up with sisters and brothers. You yelling at them and fussing and fighting. You know, it's always yelling. Somebody yelling at somebody. Anthony act just like his father. His father is loud, just like Anthony was loud. His mother, she was laid back. We met in high school. If I could describe him with one word, it'd be loud. You knew Anthony was somewhere nearby and didn't even see him, but you heard him.
Anthony had a lot of friends. He played sports and his mom's house was always filled. He had a lot of personality and a really big heart.
The list goes on with very kind, hard moments he did. And he'll give you the shirt off his back. Me and Anthony graduated in 2002. Anthony went straight into the work field. We both did, kind of started working right out of high school. When it came down to it, to pay the bills, we were hard workers.
He became a father in his early 20s, and then he went on to have 2 more kids.
He has 2 boys and a little girl. He loved his children. He was a great, great family man. He was a great father.
Anthony eventually went to school to be an electrician. He thought that would be a good career and he would be able to support his kids. So when he wasn't with his kids or working, he liked to hang out with his friends in the neighborhood.
In our free time, we played cards. We loved to gamble. We might gamble on who walking in the door next, but it was mainly cards, dice, stuff like that, football games. We would gamble on anything.
He was a good guy who worked hard and kept a low profile. He loved his kids and would help anyone who needed it.
He was one of those guys that you just wouldn't expect to have no drama, you know, no beef.
On the night of August 9th, 2015, word that Anthony had been shot shocks his friends and family. They gather at a hospital in Charlotte, where they wait for an update.
Mama and Daddy, they were there because we didn't know, you know, the situation at first. Everybody kind of was filling in what was going on, so I kind of got filled in when I got there.
Anthony was shot his left temple and twice in his left forearm. Apparently, Anthony was trying to block the shots with his forearm, and Anthony then died not long after he arrived at the hospital. The shot to the temple proved fatal.
When we got the news that he had passed away, man, it was just like chaos everywhere. Everybody started screaming and crying. I remember me personally, you know, I got to like a corner and I just balled up, man, and was just crying because I couldn't believe it. We just all just broke. It was terrifying.
Back in Rock Hill, homicide detectives arrive on Frank Street.
I do not know exactly if it was during transport or very shortly after. I remember that we had not been on the scene all that long before we were notified that he had died.
It seemed as a regular shooting call, but after Anthony died, it took it to a whole different level. It was now a homicide case.
We located 7 shell casings that were of a .22 caliber. They were all near the back of the house, though. There were none near Anthony or his, where he fell. The shooting had happened from sort of the back side of the house towards the side of it, which would have given a direct line of sight to the roadway where he was located.
The casings looked like they were from some type of long gun or rifle. They all appeared to come from the same weapon.
But not from the .380 found underneath Anthony.
It was apparent that his weapon had not been fired. It was fully loaded. There were obviously no spent casings around him.
It was pretty clear that he was carrying a gun, probably for his own protection, but he never had a chance to fire it in his defense.
Police speak with the witnesses.
People had fled the area after the shooting happened for fear of their safety. But there were quite a number of people who had been inside the home there playing some cards that night, just hanging out, sort of having a kickback, as they call it. And they were all mostly outside looking at the situation.
One of them is a man named Roderick Wright.
Mr. Wright was just a longtime friend of the victim, Mr. Hart, and he was another one of the persons there that evening playing cards and hanging out.
Roderick tells investigators that Anthony had also been in the house.
So they were just generally hanging out that evening. I don't know how long they had been playing, but at some point he stepped outside, I guess, to get some fresh air.
Roderick went with him.
He was speaking with his friend Roderick Wright, and they were just catching up outside the home where there was a card game going on.
And as they were speaking, Roderick spotted someone sort of pop out from behind the back of the house, wearing all black.
It seemed weird, and it put both of them on edge.
He saw that person step back behind the house, and he said to Mr. Hart, let's go back inside. They began to walk back into the house out of concern for this man that he saw in the shadows.
So Anthony hesitated for a minute, and then he said, I got to get something out of my car.
Anthony went to his vehicle. We don't know for sure what he did, but our assumption is that he got his handgun out of the vehicle to protect himself and his friend as they were then going to go back inside the house where they would feel more safe. And then they were turning to go walk back inside.
Before they could get inside, the man reemerged.
This man stepped back out from the side of the house again and indiscriminately opened fire.
There was just gunshots, one after the other, just out of the blue.
Rock Hill, South Carolina police are investigating the shooting death of 30-year-old Anthony Hart. Investigators on the scene speak with Anthony's friend and witness to the shooting, Roderick Wright.
A man came from the side of the house, dressed in all black, just opened up fire, started shooting, and he said he panicked and fled the scene.
He was definitely on edge and scared and had gotten his car and sped away. So it was a very traumatic moment for him.
The witness stated that he fled from the scene in fear of getting shot himself. So as soon as he heard that the coast was clear, he came back.
Roderick's statement helps investigators develop a theory.
If someone is dressed in all black with a weapon, sneaking up behind the house, the theories would then be that they were there to intentionally rob or kill someone. It wasn't a random act of violence. It wasn't like an argument that went sideways. And because there was a card game going on inside the house where money was being used in the betting, it was assumed that possibly the suspect was there to rob the people of their money at the card game.
Other witnesses who'd been at the card game report that one man left early and angry.
Sean Durham had been at the card game and lost his money and left angry and upset that he had lost the money. And it was assumed that he had come back to rob everyone to take back his money. That was the initial rumor that was circulating in the streets, and we heard that from many different people that night.
But Roderick can't say one way or another whether Sean was the shooter.
Roderick was only able to say that the suspect was wearing all black because the backside of those houses on Frank Street is very dark, especially that late at night. Very few of them have any back porch lights. And so it would have been pitch black, and Roderick would have been looking from a well-lit position in the street into darkness, and so he would not have been able to give any sort of a positive identification of the shooter.
They actually find Sean and talk to him. He admits that he left angry, but insists that he had nothing to do with the murder. He says that he went to a friend's house and stayed there the rest of the night.
Sean is still a suspect this time, but he could be lying about his alibi, so this time he's just a person of interest.
There's nothing connecting him to the shooting. No proof.
Detectives plan to follow up on Sean's alibi. In the meantime, more tips come in.
Investigators learned about a shooting that happened a week prior, and they said figuring out that this could be connected to the shooting.
On August 2nd, a man opened fire on a home on Frank Street, just 3 houses down from the scene of Anthony's shooting.
A male subject came in the evening, stood in the front yard, and opened fire into the house through the front windows of the house.
There were 9 people inside the home. Based on witness statements of individuals inside the home, it appears that one of the first or second rounds caused the blinds, the window dressings to fall. There were 2 small children, toddlers really, who were playing in the floor of the living room. He continued to fire multiple rounds into the house before fleeing the scene.
There were several people at home at the time, including a grandmother, a pregnant woman, and children.
Somehow, no one was killed.
The shooting was immediately reported by the family that lived there. The male subject inside had either been grazed by a bullet or by glass, and so he needed some medical treatment. The family was clearly traumatized by the shooting.
Investigators identified a suspect in the shooting.
One of the residents of that home. She did not know his name, but she knew him to go by Q.
The next day, by utilizing the nicknames that had been given to us, we were able to produce a photo lineup, go back to the family, and one of the young women was willing to cooperate with us and identify him as the shooter.
They learned that his real name is Quinteris Miller, and he was just 17 years old.
Based on her identification and the other evidence collected in the investigation, Miller was charged with those 9 counts of attempted murder and discharging a firearm into dwelling. Police were able to obtain warrants for his arrest on those charges, but he evaded police.
We knew that through tips that he had gone back to Chester and was in hiding. And so we contacted the City of Chester Police and the Chester County Sheriff's Department, let them know that he was wanted for an attempted murder, and they began doing surveillance and looking for him.
There's no clear connection between these 2 incidents, just rumors.
When we see these crimes happen in the neighborhoods, we know that there are witnesses, but oftentimes people don't want to speak up because of their distrust for law enforcement, for one, and that relationship has been strained. In addition to that, they're fearful of retaliation.
You have 2 shootings just a few houses away from each other within a week. Are they connected? The only way to find out is to find Quinteris and talk to him.
Anthony seemed like an all-around great guy. He was not someone that the police dealt with His family was very kind and cooperative, and overall it was a situation where a truly innocent person had been killed and needed justice. I met with Anthony's family shortly after the shooting because, of course, we wanted to know if Anthony had any problems with other people who might have been there to intentionally target and hurt him. And of course, the family couldn't think of any reasons at all why someone would want to hurt their son. Early in the investigation, especially that night, there were not many working theories for us to run with, particularly after Roderick came and said that he saw the shooter behind the house. That set up a situation that was something like an ambush.
After 30-year-old Anthony Hart dies during a shooting in his Rock Hill neighborhood, police look to question the suspect in another shooting, Quinteris Miller.
He allegedly shot into a house full of people, which included a toddler and a senior citizen. There's a warrant for his arrest now, but now he's on the run.
Word on the street is that the two shootings are connected.
People are saying that the same person who shot up the house shot Anthony, but police don't know if that's true, and if that's true, what the connection might be.
As police continue to hunt for Quinteris, they take a closer look at the first shooting.
The family did tell us that it happened probably because of the fight that took place there in their front yard earlier that day. The family made the connection for us because they knew that Quinteris was present at both incidents.
On August 2nd, a man by the name of Swedarius Beatty got into an argument or a fight of some sort with his girlfriend at the time.
Beatty's girlfriend is Quinteris Miller's sister.
He received a call from his sister that she was there, and so he went over there to help protect his sister.
Quinteris Miller arrived on Frank Street with a group of other people to confront Mr. Beatty about the altercation with his sister. During that confrontation, things escalated.
A young woman got out some pepper spray, and she sprayed Quinteris' sister and everyone who was in her car. Quinteris got mad about that and hit the pepper spray out of the young woman's hand. Well, that was Beatty's sister. So Beatty got mad and attacked Quinteris with the brick.
Suddenly, Beatty hits him in the face with a brick and knocks him unconscious.
And then he began to, again, hit Quinteris more times while he was unconscious.
The witness goes on to tell police that some good Samaritans jumped in to help.
There were two individuals about two houses down, a father and son, who were sitting on their porch and observing this go down in front of the houses on Frank Street. And after Mr. Miller had been knocked unconscious, Beatty was on top of him and continued to assault him. These two men got up and ran to help Mr. Miller, and they were able to effectively get Beatty off of him.
Anthony and his dad ran over and broke up the fight. And then Quinteris' sister and their friends were able to drag him into a car and get him out of there. No one was charged for anything that took place there because all the parties did not want to cooperate or press charges.
Rumor has it that Quinteris left the incident humiliated.
Beatty essentially got the best of Mr. Miller.
He felt very disrespected by the fact that he had been hit with the brick, and so he wanted revenge.
So at this point, Quinteris is embarrassed. He's been humiliated. Here you've come to help your sister, but you underestimated what you were walking into. So you expected to come in and save your sister, but instead, really someone had to save you. So now he's got to figure out what is he going to do to eliminate that, to make sure that he's not going to be made fun of, that people are not going to lose respect for him. Because oftentimes that's what it's about. It's about respect. And whether someone's going to challenge you or not, you've got to come back and make sure that you reestablish and retaliate for what has happened to you.
Miller returns to Frank Street and he approaches the house there, and standing approximately 10 feet from the living room window, he opens fire with a pistol into the home.
Swaderis lived in that home with several family members, so it's suspected that Quinteris was just shooting into the home hoping to hit Swaderis. It's clear what happened there that day, but what does any of this have to do with Anthony Hart?
On August 13th, we got an anonymous tip.
The tipster says she overheard a disturbing conversation between Quinteris and two other men, Gabriel Mobley and Xavier Thompson, the night before Anthony's murder.
She heard the Miller and the others discussing what he had on his mind that night, that he needed a rifle to hit a lick, which is a term that essentially means that he wants to commit some sort of crime.
Gabriel says his brother has a rifle that he offers to Quinteris.
Gabriel Mobley retrieved the gun from inside the house and gave it to Mr. Miller.
The tipster says the men left the house immediately.
All three young men, Gabriel, Xavier, and Quinteris, left with the gun towards Frank Street.
Moments later, the tipster says she heard gunfire.
Witnesses say she heard gunshots. We know that this is the same day and time that Anthony was shot. And we know that three men headed in the same direction. And this is the same gun that killed Anthony.
Investigators are on the hunt for 17-year-old Quinteris Miller, a suspect in multiple crimes, including the murder of Anthony Hart.
A tipster tells police that Gabriel Mobley gave Quinteris a rifle that he may have used to kill Anthony, so they searched his home.
Because he was on probation, we had the right to search him and his house based on this tip that we got. And so we searched the house thoroughly, and we found a box of .22 caliber ammunition that had been intentionally hidden in the bathroom.
After searching the home, investigators found the bullets that matches the crime scene, but they don't find the gun that killed Anthony Hart.
He could not possess any ammunition at the time, so he was in trouble for that on the probation side of things.
They're getting closer, but there's still so many unanswered questions. Like, why would Quinteris kill Anthony? It just made no sense.
Then, on August 19th, investigators get the chance to ask him.
We knew that through tips that he had gone back to Chester and was in hiding. And so we contacted the City of Chester Police and the Chester County Sheriff's Department, let them know that he was wanted for an attempted murder, and they began doing surveillance and looking for him.
Quinteris was arrested in Chester, then transported to Rock Hill Police Department.
They spotted him getting into a car in downtown Chester. They just simply pulled him over, and he gave no problems. They arrested him and transported him up to Rock Hill for us.
At that point, Quinteris was arrested for attempted murder charges for shooting up the house.
Quinteris agrees to an interview.
He freely told us about the fight that happened in the morning, but then he denied having come back to shoot up Mr. Beatty's house that evening.
He denies involvement in any of the shootings.
Instead, he offers up an alibi.
He denied any involvement, but he did admit that he was in Rock Hill that day, that he was with the Mobleys, and he had claimed that he was playing video games with Gabriel Mobley at the time of the shooting.
And then once we got to the questioning of the murder, he requested a lawyer, and he ended the interview and did not discuss that at all. We informed the family of updates of the case as it was going along. So once we had arrested Quinteris for the first shooting, that's when we spoke to the family.
Anthony's dad is familiar with the house where Quinteris allegedly opened fire after the fight.
He and Anthony had friends who lived a couple of houses down from where the incident took place.
It was a very common place for them to be, and that's when he remembered.
He and his son, Anthony, they witnessed a fight on Frank Street.
Anthony's father put two and two together and let me know that he and Anthony had actually intervened in that fight. Because to him, he didn't know that it had anything to do with the murder, and so he didn't think to mention it because it's not uncommon to find teenagers, fighting in the streets. During the fight, Quinteris Miller was knocked unconscious, but the male subject who was assaulting him did not stop hitting him even though he was unconscious. So Anthony and his father intervened to prevent Mr. Miller from getting more injuries while he was unconscious on the ground. And they helped break up the fight.
This is it. This is the connection between the two shootings, but it doesn't make sense.
If Anthony tried to help Quinteris, why would Quinteris seek Anthony out and gun him down?
Meanwhile, a former suspect in Anthony's murder is also in custody on unrelated charges.
Sometime shortly after the murder, Sean Durham was arrested on a completely separate case.
Sean was considered a suspect early on because he got angry and stormed out of the card game when he lost money.
While he was in the York County Detention Center, he was not given a bond for his charges. And he desperately wanted a bond, and so he volunteered to work with the police to clear his name, because obviously he had heard the rumors that he was being named as the shooter in Anthony's case. And so he and his lawyer were cooperative with the police.
On August 24th, Sean and his attorney reach out to detectives.
Sean Durham, he volunteers to help police get Quinteris to confess.
He stated that if he was put in a room with Miller, he felt sure that he could get Miller to talk about it and to admit that he was the shooter in that case. They arranged to have both Miller and Mr. Durham transported from the jail to the law center in Rock Hill, which is where the Rock Hill Police Department is located. They placed a camera and some audio recording equipment in a room. They brought Mr. Miller and Durham into that room.
On August 28th, 2015, police in Rock Hill, South Carolina, listen in as Sean Durham attempts to pull a murder confession out of Quinteris Miller.
Quinteris and Sean are placed in a room alone together with a hidden recording device.
The investigators then went to another room where they watched, I believe, a live feed from the camera as Durham spoke with Miller about the incident. And it was that conversation between Miller and Durham that really sealed Q Miller's fate. He asked him, were you just trying to get one under your belt, meaning a murder, taking a life? And Miller just shook his head and laughed.
It would have given Quinteris a lot of street cred. And so he seemed quite happy to talk about the murder with Sean. Sean was able to get Quinteris to open up and talk about the murder because Quinteris would have thought that his information would be safe with Sean. Quinteris looked up to and respected Sean. They ran in the same circles, had the same friends, had been through a lot together.
How many shell cases have they found?
And they said they found like 7, 8.
Sean really just approached Quinteris from a position of being sort of excited about hearing the details of the case.
Sean starts pushing. He starts getting at the question that police really want answered. Why? And what Quinteris says is a complete shock.
Why? They won't let me wrong.
And he asked him, he said, you mean you killed the wrong person? And again, he laughed and nodded his head.
And it wasn't even meant for him. That's crazy, man.
He then went on to talk about who the intended target was, that it was Mr. Beatty, and the reason why he was seeking retribution against him for being assaulted and getting knocked out a week before.
Quinteris admitted that he accidentally shot the wrong guy because he thought Anthony was the man who hit him, where in actuality it was Swandarius Beatty who hit him.
Quinteris thought he was returning back to the same house he'd previously shot up, where Swandarius lived.
He still had revenge on his mind, and so he essentially decided he wanted to go back and finish what he had started.
We're talking about a boy who's probably never done anything this serious before. He's walking through an extremely dark area. His eyes may not be adjusted correctly. He was actually several houses down. Quinteris essentially said that he just popped out. He started spraying, which means just shooting the weapon at the two people that he saw.
He mistakenly believed that one of those two men was Mr. Beatty. He indiscriminately opened fire on these two individuals, striking, one of the bullets struck Mr. Hart in the head and killed him.
Oh my God, damn, bro, that's crazy, man.
Quinteris knew that he had not killed Beatty, but it didn't have much of an impact on him as to who he had actually killed.
No more sounds on.
I found it pretty chilling, too, that he showed absolutely no remorse. To find out that you mistakenly killed an innocent man, someone you didn't even know, and to show no contrition or remorse, I thought was particularly chilling about Mr. Miller.
Even more chilling is the fact that Anthony attempted to help Quinteris.
The real tragic irony in this case is that the man that he mistakenly shot, Anthony Hart, was one of the two individuals who saved him a week before when he was being assaulted in front of the houses on Frank Street. Anthony Hart intervened for Miller.
Investigators finally have what they need.
Once we heard Quinteris give that information, it confirmed for us that this was all tied back to the August 2nd shooting at Beatty's home. This was just a 16-year-old who wanted revenge because he got hit in the fist with a brick. It really just made the whole thing that much more tragic.
With that confession, that was enough for officers then to charge Mr. Miller with the murder of Anthony Hart at that time. Under South Carolina law, he was an adult, so he was tried and prosecuted as an adult.
Following a taped confession, Quinteris Miller faces over 20 charges, including murder and multiple accounts of attempted murder. Investigators continue to work the case, interviewing his alleged accomplices in the murder, Xavier Thompson and Gabriel Mobley.
G. Mobley and Xavier Thompson went with Quinteris to commit the crime.
They put one another as the accomplice to Quinteris, and they tried to protect themselves. And so Xavier ultimately said it was Gabriel and Quinteris who went to go do the shooting. Gabriel said no, it was Xavier and Quinteris who went to do the shooting. So they were being somewhat cooperative, but it was hard to tell which one was telling the truth. It seemed a little bit more spur of the moment for Xavier and Gabriel to be involved in the case. It seemed like they were going along with their friend because it might have been an exciting thing. Maybe they didn't know exactly what he intended to do, although he did take a firearm to go do a lick. They weren't completely unaware.
They tell investigators that they dumped the gun in the woods.
They hid the gun somewhere. We never did find the murder weapon.
Prosecutors don't want to take any chances. They offer Quinteris the opportunity to plea.
Because we did not have direct physical evidence like fingerprints or DNA. There was no video of him committing it. That would still be a strong case, but not a guaranteed one.
For months, Quinteris and his attorneys refuse.
Well, the case was a little bit more than a year old, and we had been unable to reach a plea agreement. The case was set for trial in the early part of 2017. It was actually not until just days before this trial was scheduled to start on a Monday morning that we received confirmation from Mr. Miller's attorney that he wanted to accept our offer to plead guilty. Miller wanted to plead guilty under the doctrine of North Carolina versus Alford, so he did not actually have to admit his guilt, but he acknowledged that there was substantial evidence against him, enough that there's a substantial likelihood that a jury would find him guilty. And with the evidence confirmed against him, he accepted the state's offer and pled guilty for the negotiated sentence of 30 years. He cannot be released early, he cannot make parole.
Quintero does not make a statement or give any details of his crimes.
He was so angry, so bent on getting one guy that he didn't care who else had to get hurt along the way for him to get that revenge against just one person. So in his case, an entire family was traumatized. There were an elderly woman and a pregnant woman, children who their lives were put at risk when Quintero shot up their home. Obviously, an innocent man, Anthony, lost his life over this, and ultimately, Quintero never got the revenge he wanted.
Part of the tragedy is that he didn't just take Anthony Hart's life, he threw his own life away. And over something as just trivial as being knocked out in a fight. You know, I think that it's clear from his actions, mistakenly shooting the wrong person, that he's a very dangerous person. And his propensity for violence is obvious from the facts and the evidence in the case.
Anthony's killer was caught, and he is getting the consequences for what he did to Anthony. But I'm sure that his family would rather have Anthony alive today than, you know, another young man in prison.
There's just something about Anthony Hart acting as a good Samaritan and intervening for this man who ultimately killed him that just would be so hard for me, I think, to stomach as a family member.
Like, this guy literally was helping you out, and you know, you not paying attention, or you just filled with rage and want a retaliation, just come out and just start shooting, and not knowing you just took the life of the guy that helped you out. It was crazy. It was just stupid. That shows you what type of person Anthony is. A very, you know, kind person, will give you the shirt off his back and, you know, help anybody in need.